Hi, this is Trey Passer. Welcome to my review of Doom Patrol Episode 3. This one is called Puppet Patrol. Uh, like I said, we find out in this episode that the team is heading to Paraguay, or at least trying to try to track down the chief. Uh, Initially, Cyborg, they find a picture in the chief's files of the same donkey the donkey that could travel to different dimensions in Paraguay, a picture of him from the 1940s. So they try to, they said, okay, that's the next clue. So let's go to Paraguay. So Cyborg is, telling the team, listen, we got to go there to try to find the chief. But of course, when he tries to go, his father, Silas, tell him, listen, this is not a Star Labs thing. This is a thing for you to do on your own. So, good luck. He said, you're resourceful. You'll find a way to get there. Basically telling him they basically have to get there, and they all they have is the bus. So literally, they have to get on the bus, and try to drive and get there. But this episode is mostly also about flashbacks to Larry Trainer, aka Negative Man. About we get more of his backstory and him being in love, being secretly closeted, gay, and his relationship with his I guess engineer buddy, a fellow co-pilot and stuff. You get more of that relationship with that, and then you also have a little bit more with his relationship with his wife, and it seems to be like his wife really kind of knows that he's gay, and he's promised her before, I guess, that he would, straighten himself out and stuff. And you can tell that she knows, but she's not outright saying it, but you tell that she knows that he gays. And she said, I think the way she even phrases it is that you told me there'll be no more night out with no more night out with beers with the boys, which just kind of a euphemism for it, that she knows that he's out with a boyfriend. So you can tell that there's tension in there. And then, again, at the same time, we're having this weird road trip with them traveling in the bus, and of course, our misadventures with them getting on the bus, trying to drive to Paraguay, and the bus breaking down, and all the different stuff that happens. Crazy Jane acting crazy Jane, and of course, Elasti-Girl. Uh, her issues with trying to stay together and stuff, and literally when they're in the middle of the mission, and they're trying, the bus breaks down, and they try to get there. Crazy Jane literally grabs she grabs Negative Man and Robot Man, and she literally one of her personalities has the power of teleportation, and she actually teleports them there to Paraguay. Okay, and literally, so left behind is of course Elasti-Girl and Cyborg. So while they're waiting for the bus to get fixed. So we have Crazy Jane, Robot Man, and Negative Man, in Paraguay looking for, and they get on the bus to this clinic where this ex-Nazi guy is literally putting on a puppet show, literally, where he's telling, these new recruits that have come to this, his little, I guess, village or clinic to get changed, literally changed. Okay, and you have this puppet literally explaining the history of how he made Mr. Nobody into himself, and then how this guy came along, this interloper came along, which is a chief, and literally stole his idea, and it kind of gets acted out in puppet form. And of course, Robot Man has the most funniest lines in this episode. A lot in this, where he's remarking about how that they're literally watching a puppet show of the chief's backstory, and then also when he's kind of teasing Cyborg and stuff when they can't, they can't, fly to Paraguay like they thought they were going to do, but they had to literally take the bus, and he makes jokes about him. Couldn't you just call? Don't you have a flight with Jane? Couldn't you call a Superman? He makes some kind of Justice League jokes, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. Okay, but also at the same time we have that going on. We have Cyborg and Elasti-Girl, like I said, they're literally stuck in the hotel waiting, and you see them have a back and forth where he kind of yells at her and said, "Don't you want the chief back? And don't you care?" And you see her literally start falling apart, and she said yes, and you can see they kind of resolve their issues with him. He kind of apologized to her for snapping at her, and stuff, and then literally you have the father come back, Silas Stone, and said, "Listen, okay, I'll let you, I'll give you the jet," and then they actually fly down to Paraguay, and at the same time you see Crazy Jane, she snaps, and she literally, because you see that the scientist, he has he's connected to this air thing, and they're kind of keeping him alive with this machine that they're constantly moving, and she literally crushes the machine, so he, eventually he just dies. And you see again at the same time, Larry Trainer, aka Negative Man, he's still having those flashbacks to his previous life, and you see him in the hospital after the accident, and his wife literally basically she tells him goodbye. He's trying to tell her to to hang on, that he'll get better and stuff, but she tells him, no, this is goodbye. And she basically tells him, I hope you do one day find, you are finally happy. Basically tell him, I hope you really find, are able to live your life open and free. But she says she has to, she has to leave and move on, and she literally leaves and says goodbye to him. And then you see his co-pilot, Lover, he comes back, and early in the episode, which I forgot to mention, he actually, the night before the test flight, he actually tells Larry that he's leaving, that he's quitting the Air Force, and he's gonna, he's tired of hiding who he is, and he's gonna, get out of the service and go anywhere. He wants Larry to come with him, and of course Larry kind of snaps at him and says, "Listen, you can't drop this on me just before I have this big flight," But they kind of, they make up. But then later, when he comes to see Larry after his accident, Larry basically tells him to go. He's literally again tells him to go too. Like he doesn't want to see anybody, and he kind of kisses him. Well, not kissing goodbye. He literally tells him just to go. Okay, and that kind of ends. And then of course we see, they hook up again. Now they're in Paraguay now, Cyborg and Elasti-Girl with Robot Man and Crazy Jane and Larry Trainer, and they head back. They're gonna head back to States because they literally just have the puppet of the chief. Okay, so they know that the chief was involved with with the Nazi doctor, or at least down there with the Nazi doctor and Mr. Nobody. So that's how it kind of ends with them literally on the plane, coming back. And so we'll see how they proceed with them, I guess, to find out more about where Mr. Nobody could be, holding the chief, because we know that he was down in Paraguay down there, and the chief was involved somehow with that experiment. He was literally down there, so we have to find out exactly. I guess when they come back, they'll try to find out exactly, where else the chief traveled, and to me that'll give them a clue to where, Mr. Nobody's holding the chief. Okay, so and this episode was pretty good. Like I said, I liked the jokes that that Robot Man was making to Cyborg. He was just dropping a lot of and I think there was even a guy that they met on the road when the bus broke down, and the guy asked, "Don't you know Batman? What's Batman like?" Yes. And of course Cyborg said, "I don't know Batman. Unfortunately, I don't know Batman." There's just a lot of, I like that they dropped those little in jokes in there. But Robot Man had me cracking up because he was just making these quips to Cyborg, because Cyborg was kind of taking charge, and he was just making a bunch of jokes about, ain't you in the Justice League or something? Couldn't you just call up? Don't you have a plane? He was just making a bunch of wisecracks, which I thought was funny. And Crazy Jane was more or less Crazy Jane for this episode. She, I think, changed to two personalities, other personalities in this episode, but for the most part, she was Crazy Jane this whole, most of the, the episode. And again, you saw more bonding between Elasti-Girl and Cyborg and stuff. And we did see a flashback of Cyborg when he was actually talking to his computer half, telling him to give him a flashback of the night of the accident where he spilled the chemicals that caused the explosion that caused the accident that led him into becoming Cyborg and stuff. He was like looking back on that, so we got that nice flashback. But again, this show is just interesting enough and funny enough that it just keeps your interest, and I can't wait to see where else they're gonna go with this, because the characters are compelling, the stories are great, and again, we get more of Larry Trainer's background and stuff, and I thought that's really good and essential. And we actually even got I guess a moment of where you see it looks like a dream sequence, I think, where when they were down in Paraguay and they put him in the machine, and he had a thing where literally his bandages came off. I think this was all psychological in his brain, and he was completely healed and stuff. And he saw the spirit, the negative spirit that's in him, and he was blaming him. He said, "Listen, I'm free of you. I don't need you anymore. It's it was all your fault." And then you see his gay lover come out and say, "No, it was really your fault." Okay, and you see that's when they kind of the rest of the Doom Patrol, they shut off the machine, and you see Larry see, I think he still has to come to some sort of, like, I guess, in agreement with this spirit that's inside of him, instead of, because where they can kind of, you know, I guess, share their consciousness. They have to kind of come to some kind of agreement, because earlier in the episode, which caused the bus crashes, that he was basically yelling at his alien spirit, telling that negative spirit inside of him, that entity, yelling at it, telling it, that we got to come to some sort of agreement. And it literally came out of his body and caused him to crash the bus, and he basically crashed the bus. And so again, we'll, I guess, see more in the future. And eventually, I think they'll come to some sort of agreement. Those two warring factions inside of himself, they'll come to some sort of agreement. But again, more of a great, just another great episode. And this show is just very interesting and very well written and very well acted. So I can't wait to see episode 4. Anyway, let me know what you think of episode 3, Puppet Patrol. What do you think of it? Feel free to leave comments down below. I have links to my social media in the description box, my Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram. Also have a link to my other channel, All Views and Opinions. Please check that out as well. And this is Trey Pastor saying so long. Take care.